for being here. It's our weekly FEBE. You know, we meet every Wednesday from 10 until 11. And we also have FEBE Evening, which typically is the second Wednesday of the month. However, in honor of our Global Entrepreneurship Week events that we've had this week, we decided we're moving the FEBE Evening to tonight. So we hope that you can come back at 5:30. We have some veteran-owned businesses that will be here this evening. And as always, I want to thank Dunkin' Donuts for being our sponsor across the street. They've been wonderful sponsors. I also want to let you know that there are pastries available that's brought to you by Hungry Bee Catering, which is our guest speaker today. So I want to go ahead and introduce Kimberly from the Hungry Bee Catering Company. So Kimberly, if you want to come on up.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Kimberly from Hungry Bee Catering. I'm out in Chagrin Falls. I didn't realize what a haul this was out here this morning. And I looked at my map because I go, oh man, I better get in the car. I better peace out. I gotta go. So thank you for having me here. You know, it's always an honor to come and speak to programs like this. Rather than make this about a commercial about my business and things like that, I want to talk about things that valuable lessons I've learned, mistakes I've made, all that good stuff. So everyone says, Hungry Bee. Where did you come up with the name Hungry Bee Catering? That's kind of an odd name. Where did that come from? But a lot of people remember it when they hear it. So I grew up out in Auburn Township in Geauga County. And I am the daughter of two heavily workaholic parents. One of those parents, my mother, is blind. And she said growing up to my father, Gene, you really need to get a hobby with Kimberly. She meant like tennis, golf, something like that. We came home with 5 beehives. Now my father's the largest beekeeper in Ohio. We have a little over 300 beehives. We lease them out to independent farmers and growers for orchard pollination. It could probably be considered child abuse at this day and age. I remember people would call our house at all hours of the night. We have a swarm of bees. We think they're in our attic. They're in our wall. Can you come and get them? And my dad said, yeah, no problem. And he would come in a full bee suit, and me being 6 years old, I had the exact same bee suit. And I would be crawling up through these people's walls in their ventilation with almost like a vacuum cleaner, sucking out thousands and thousands of bees in this box. And I think about it now. I have a 3-year-old. I'm like, I don't think I could ever do that to my child. I don't think I would put her up there like that. But I learned so much about when people call, you answer the phone, about having a work ethic. When someone needs you, you go get it. We never had to market. It was all word of mouth. We were in all the grocery stores with our liquid honey, cut comb honey, bee pollen. And from a young age, that was so impactful for me of the entrepreneur that I wanted to be one day. So working with all the independent farmers and growers growing up for orchard pollination, I really gained quite a respect for food, community, all the time, care, and energy that goes into growing that perfect tomato or that cucumber or the pumpkins for Halloween time. I really gained a respect for that. And I knew that someday I wanted to do something with food. And a lot of that has to do with being the child of a visually impaired parent. I grew up on a lot of Stouffer's, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, all that. You know, it's not great. But I always knew that that made me want to have a passion to cook when I became older. I credit a lot of my success for being an entrepreneur from my community. I am nothing without my parents. I'm nothing without my community. And how did that shape me? Community shaped me because I went to a vocational program when I was in high school, the Auburn Career Center. Those teachers really saw I had a passion for food. They put me in any competition that came up. I won them. And essentially, I received a full college scholarship to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, from my community. That community support always made me realize I would come back to the community that supported me so much. Upon graduating from the Culinary Institute, I became Harrison Ford's private chef for a few years. I traveled around with him, and I tell everybody, he's a great guy. He's a meat and potatoes guy, no frill, nothing fancy. He's not Hollywood. It was amazing. From there, I decided to move back to Cleveland, and I became part of the Cleveland Clinic. There was a restaurant opening up. Now it's Table 45. It was Classics. And the thing I think about Classics, it was one of my first jobs after moving home. We lost $1 million in 6 months. We were all wearing Egyptian cotton chef coats. We were getting boxes of black truffles from France shipped in at like $60,000 a box. But at that point, at the Cleveland Clinic was when Dr. Loop was the CEO and the delegations from Dubai were coming in. $1 million lost in 6 months, no big deal, no big deal. But with that, I got to work with product I will probably never be able to work with again in my life. I realized this is not how you operate a business. This is how you lose a lot of money in a very fast period of time. We got some amazing accolades. It was incredible. And then from there on, I moved on. I managed Loretta Paganini's culinary school for a few years. And I said, it's probably time I do this for myself. I met someone. I was writing wine lists at Moxie and Red in Beechwood. I met the chef. I married him 2 years later. So I found that being an entrepreneur, if you're going to start your own business, it's mostly you need to have that teammate in your corner. And I'm sure you guys all know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Having a true teammate that understands you have to have a love to serve attitude, and there is no time clock. They say entrepreneurs work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week. And I think that couldn't be any more true. A few years ago, I bought a little building in Chagrin Falls. I rehabbed it. It's now the home of Hungry Bee Catering. And everyone says, I love it. People walk into my shop and they go, oh, we really hope you're going to make it here. There's been like 5 different things here. We really hope you're going to make it here. These people don't realize that Little Hungry Bee in Chagrin Falls is the private chef for a lot of the country's top CEOs. I stock private jets. I go on yachts. I cater the Republican National Convention. I'm Mr. and Mrs. Haslam's private chef that own the Browns. And I do a lot of traveling. Our shop was just a little tool to market a bigger picture of our business. A lot of people say, what is this with the Republican National Convention? How did this happen? You're a small, independently owned business out of Geauga County. How did you get on a platform like that? How did you get in front of the people you got in front of? And I have one answer, and it might not be very politically correct. It's because I had balls. It's because I said, you know what? Why not me? Why not my business? Why not? So I started making calls. I made a lot of calls. And one day I made 32 phone calls to everyone in Cleveland that I thought might be affiliated with the Republican National Convention. And I got calls back. And I was put through a very rigorous 6-month process with the Secret Service. It's something I would never, ever want to go through again. And I tell people, no matter what your political beliefs are, this was good for our small business. We like the Republicans' money as much as we like the Democrats' money. So it was, it was wonderful for our business. And I'm so thrilled that Cleveland came off in the positive light it came off in. I mean, that was amazing. And everyone's concerns were how it was going to be. It was amazing. Cleveland did such a good job, and I was so proud to be a part of it. But I will tell you, for those 6 months leading up to it, I would never want to be put through that again. It was so invasive. And when you have the Trump campaign with this, that added a whole nother element to this RNC that came to Cleveland. I mean, it was uncomfortable, I'm not going to lie. Secret Service would come to Hungry Bee. We'd have to lock all the doors. They would have to hold their badges up to the glass, and we would call their numbers in to make sure they were legit. Because what most people don't know is that Obama's last inauguration, people posed as health inspectors and contaminated all the food. It's pretty scary. It's pretty scary. So there were, what I'm assuming, a lot of people saying things about the president-elect or who it was going to be, and there was just a whole nother element of security going on. We went through a very rigorous background check constantly, people popping in unannounced, and then we did a lot of cooking tests. We went in front of many, many panels. And we had this final day where everyone's aides from around the country came in. Trump's aides, everybody's aides came. and it was almost like a tasting vendor's day. And I've gotten a little bit of flack for it, but I walked into that room and I saw all these people and I go, why not me? Why not me? I have a company that I own that has 6 people working for it, but I'm in between 2 other companies that have over 500 employees. But why not me? And I stood at this table as all these people came up and I said, you can go with the small, locally owned and operated Cleveland business here, or you can go with Walmart on either side of me. And people looked at me and they go, well, what do you mean by that? I said, if you all in this room are Republicans and you're talking about what your candidate is going to be doing here, why not go with the small, independent-owned company that truly is exemplifying what you are standing for right now? 2 days later, my phone blew up, my email blew up. I secured every single account at the RNC. And that to me was very humbling and very emotional. We worked strictly with Trump and his family, the Trump campaign. We had all the Secret Service. We had Reince Priebus, Newt Gingrich, Dr. Ben Carson, lots of other ones. And these were contracts. And I was so down on it. I will tell everyone, I was so down on it because when you read in the paper, you see, oh, the Cleveland businesses, they're not benefiting from this RNC. This was the best experience of my life professionally, and no one really wanted to talk about it. None of the papers wrote anything great about it. I was paid in full before this even happened. On the last day of the convention, when Donald Trump announced that he was going to be the man there, they ordered on $70,000 of shrimp on the last day. I was paid in full, and I had everybody's credit card just in case. And those are things nobody in Cleveland really talked about. Like the people that were inside that Quicken Loans arena, they were really taken care of. And it was an amazing, exceptional experience. Everyone was so gracious. And what that right there, those phone calls that I made that one day when I said I wanted to work at this Republican National Convention has changed not only my life, my business, and has paid off all my bills. So if I can say anything major to anybody, it's put yourself out there. Have the guts to market yourself. No one is going to market yourself or your brand better than you. No one's going to work as hard at your business as you are. And that has been the one thing these last 6 months that I have learned tenfold over and over again. Since the Republican National Convention, our business has gone up about 300%, including our corporate business. And we are opening up location number 2 in 2 weeks. It's a new concept called Cultivate, and we are marketing it as conscious carryout. I hate comparing it to Chipotle, where you walk in and you have a bowl or whatever, but it's a build your own model, and we're hoping to franchise it here in the very near future. I think about mistakes. What mistakes have I made over these past few years? And the major thing was, I always felt like I needed to take on a business partner. I don't know if anyone here has had business partners and it's gone awry. It does not always work out. And I will say, it's much like a divorce. It's absolutely terrible. It's nothing I would ever want to experience again. I thought I had an amazing business partner who is an amazing person, but we were just at 2 different points of our lives. When that relationship ended, it crushed me, but it also pushed me to go after what I truly wanted to go after. What's on the horizon here in the very near future? I'm going to be on Food Network starting in January. That's going to be really fun and exciting. They're coming out next week to film us at Hungry Bee. I'll be on Chopped. I don't know what else that's going to entail, but that's all I know right now. But it's just one of those things that I can't, when I speak to people, I can't say enough. You are your best form of marketing. Get out there and push your businesses, and don't be afraid to shake hands and kiss babies. What's the worst thing they're going to say? No? That's what I say. It's the worst thing they're going to say. Who has some questions or anything they want to ask while I'm kind of just hanging out? Yes?
I do.
So the question is, how was I essentially able to ramp my business up to accommodate this large event with the existing staff I had being a single entrepreneur? That was one of the hardest things of going into this Republican National Convention and growing as a business. My husband and I, we bootstrapped Hungry Bee as long as we could by ourselves. I mean, I'll be honest, and this is not the glamorous part of being an entrepreneur. I ate Raisin Bran Crunch for 3 months straight because, I mean, you think about, I'm going to have to cut this in my personal life. I'm going to have to cut this in my professional life. What am I going to do to make it work? Once you get that big contract signed and you say, how am I going to make this work? I don't have the manpower. I don't have the financial resources to get me to where I need. And I'll be honest, personally, I cut everything I could, and my husband and I were all in. And that's the main thing with your business. You have to be all in. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get a small business loan from Key Bank, and that really helped me. I walked in, and being an entrepreneur, I did not have the best credit, and I realized, you know, oh gosh, this is really going to hurt me. And if I could preach to anyone, it's credit, credit, credit. Make sure you're on top of it. I got a business loan from Key Bank. I was a high-risk loan, and I walked in primarily because I was food and beverage, and I didn't have impeccable credit. And I walked in, I say, here's my contracts I have. I vow that I will pay this loan off to you the day after the Republican National Convention. And you better believe Friday morning I went in there with a check in full. And that was probably the most incredible feeling I've ever had, that I was able to get that loan and I was able to pay it off as fast as I was. But I'll say, even now with my business, it's so hard because we're opening up location number 2. We need more manpower. We need more resources. And this is where I find that small businesses and small business owners run into the most problem is, how can I secure capital to grow my business to where I know it's going to go? And I tell people, I get into as many programs as I can. I don't know if anyone's heard about Bad Girl Ventures. I hate the name of it, and I've been saying, can you guys please just change the name? It sounds kind of like a porn. But Bad Girl Ventures. But it was a wonderful program, and it helps female entrepreneurs. I was fortunate to win Bad Girl Ventures a few years ago. Upon winning that, I was rewarded a $25,000 zero-interest loan. And with that, I founded the first woman-owned organic beer that went into all the grocery stores, paying tribute to my Geauga County roots as the beekeeper's daughter. It was called Rehive Ale. It was in Heinen's, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. It was amazing, and that whole experience taught me I am not a brewer, and brewing is a science, and I'm going to sell it and step back. But programs like that have really helped me as well, being an entrepreneur. Sure. Cultivate is actually going to be in Chagrin Falls, right down in the village. We actually are in talks right now with Cleveland Clinic about going into a clinic facility. We've been talking with Pinecrest and Beechwood about moving in there, and we've also talked with Crocker Park a little bit. So that's exciting for us. But that's a whole new thing of business for me. You know, opening up a business and being an entrepreneur and running your own business is one thing, but then expanding it, that's new territory for me. So it takes me a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm excited about it. Yes?
Since your family started the business, stay in that?
Is there a reason why I didn't stay in it, in the beekeeping business? You know, beekeeping is amazing, and I honestly think if you have it in you to do it, it's such a beautiful thing, and learning it, and you're also doing something great for the world. I didn't stay in the beekeeping because beekeeping is primarily a hobby, and it's an expensive hobby, and you're not going to make any money if you have like 3 or 4 hives. And my father's been able to do it really great. He's newly retired from his job, so he is a beekeeper full-time now. And I always thought that my passion would be just to expand on that brand a little bit. So with Hungry Bee in our retail shop, we have all the liquid, the cut comb, the pollen, the beeswax candles, everything. We do beekeeping courses out of there. So I think beekeeping was my father's dream, and it influenced my dream, but beekeeping was never my dream.
I used to work at the Cleveland Clinic and have this great place to
Sure.
do whatever they wanted.
That's a really great question. I guess I would answer it with, when I was there 24, 25 at the time, it seemed like the best experience for me in the world. I still consider the Cleveland Clinic at Classics one of the best experiences of my life. Looking back now, seeing what goes into creating a business and making it successful, I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they opened up Classics. I thought it was amazing. I mean, we were getting people in from Dubai, and they would walk in, and I'll never forget that experience. They would order chicken fingers. And it was, this is a 5-diamond restaurant in Cleveland. It's never been done in the history of the dining scene. We were able to secure the 5-diamond award in under 6 months. And there was so much PR and so much publicity to it. But to lose $1 million in 6 months, I also think that has probably never been done in the dining scene. I think, looking back now, it had some positives, but was it really worth it? I don't think so. I had lunch there last week with Dr. Johan. I had never been back to the Cleveland Clinic, to Classics, since it closed. If anyone had been in there before, it was all mahogany and suede walls. You walk in now, it looks like the Munich airport. It's very cold. And again, that's because Dr. Toby Cosgrove's taken over, and his taste is a little bit more neutral. But I don't think it was, looking back now, I think it was not worth it at all, given the grand scheme of things.
I'd like to ask a follow-up, working with her and her business.
Sure. Loretta Paganini, I don't know if any of you know her personally, but Loretta Paganini is the type of woman and chef that you could just walk up to and have a conversation with and probably drink a glass of wine with. She's so approachable. I have pictures of myself, I was like 10 years old, standing with her with a little cooking trophy that I won. And I remember thinking, I want to be just like this woman. She was so approachable. She was so great on stage. She was always out shaking hands. She was always in the community. And if you knew anything about Loretta, she didn't have a background. She didn't go to school for cooking. I mean, she grew up in Italy, but she was self-taught, self-made. And I remember looking at her and I said, this woman could put garbage out on a plate and people would eat it up, because her personality and the way that she connects with people is like something I had never seen before. And if I could take anything from Loretta, that would 100% be it. She gave back to her community, and she was a great ambassador of her own brand. I have so much respect for Loretta. Yeah. Sure. What kind of foods did I serve for the RNC? So I tell everybody, it was very casual. Sunday night prior to the RNC, I was the hosting chef for the largest Republican donor dinner at a private residence in Haslam. In Bracknell. I shouldn't have said it Haslam. In Bracknell, and it was incredible, very high-end food. I mean, they had it all, full spreads. It was exceptional. But then, going towards the week, this was a lot more casual than I think anyone would have expected. I mean, the Trump campaign specifically, they were eating, I mean, there were days I was serving them burgers. They were very casual. There was nothing over the top. It was all good, home-style, quality food. The thing that was the craziest was when I did have special requests. Someone from the Trump campaign was celebrating a birthday at the RNC, but they didn't feel the need, oh, hey, we should probably let the caterer know that we need a cake. I had to build out my own kitchen in Quicken Loans Arena, and if anyone saw on the news what that looked like during the convention, I essentially had an Auntie Anne's pretzel shop. I mean, I'm serving 1,500 people a day out of this Auntie Anne's pretzel shop. I didn't have anything on me to make a cake. I had to leave the property at 3:30 in the morning, be escorted out by Secret Service, pick up a cake from a baker. From there, by 5:30, I drove into Brown Stadium, where I was put through a 2.5-hour security checkpoint, from ripping my catering van apart, like one stop, they were scanning it. The next stop was drug dogs. The next stop, it was bomb dogs. Then the next stop, it was about 16 Secret Service members, and they all had a job, lifting up the hood, pulling everything out, underneath the car. I mean, it was hours to get just a damn cake into the Republican National Convention. From there, I had to pull in underneath Quicken Loans Arena and go through the whole thing all over again. It essentially took me 5.5 hours to get a birthday cake for 9 people into Quicken Loans Arena. I mean, I will tell you this, I've never felt safer in my entire life. I mean, I was fortunate enough to know people that lived across the street in those apartments from Quicken Loans Arena. So months before, I said, hey, I'll give you a few bucks. Would you let my staff and I stay in these apartments? And that was the best thing we ever could have done because we could walk right across the street. I mean, we're working 19.5-hour days. And that was the best part. But when you're walking from the apartment into Quicken Loans Arena, there's sharpshooters on the roof. I mean, it was the full deal. And I was so proud to be there and so proud of Cleveland. It was awesome. It was awesome.
They couldn't afford to screw up.
100%, and that is the total truth. How did I do it? How did I convince them with 6 employees? I made a lot of promises, that's for sure, basically signing my life away. But I said, once we have signed contracts and I have deposits, I will be hiring these people. And I gave them names, social security numbers, all that good stuff. I think that was probably the biggest hurdle that I had with this whole Republican National Convention, was how I could convince them that I could handle this magnitude of business in this week. And honestly, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I think I sold it. I sold myself, I sold my business, I sold my brand, and I had a vision what I knew we could accomplish. And that's it. It was probably just for me talking, and I followed through on my word, and I think that's gone a long way, and I think that's what it all comes down to. You're your best form of marketing. Do I think I'll get invited to the White House? No. I do, however, have a contract out right now to be involved in the inauguration. I don't know what that entails. I don't know if it will happen. We'll see. I mean, I would love to. It was amazing. At this point, my little company is the only one that's still Secret Service vetted in from a hospitality regard with the Trump campaign. But when the Food and Drug Administration came in, they said, running for president and being president-elect are 2 things. But then when they are actually the president, it goes just through the roof. They said anything you had ever done before, you would have to do all over again and then some. When it's the president, it's a totally different ballgame. So, yeah.
Extending to other people and depending on them?
Right. I am incredibly out of my comfort zone right now, and I can talk about that in here. I'm not going to talk about it out there, though. I am very out of my comfort zone, whether that comes with needing to hire more employees, needing more capital, growth and change. Those are uncomfortable feelings for me, and I'm sure for most entrepreneurs. I describe my husband and I best, who's my total teammate. I'm the helium in the balloon, and he's the string that kind of pulls me back down to reality a little bit. I'm a builder, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we're builders, we're goers. We got to go, 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 go. My husband is one of those, I'm very content where we are. Our business is doing so well, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. How do I come to terms with that? What am I doing? Well, I'm doing a lot of soul searching. I'm going through my business, everything. I'm seeing what we can withstand, what we can withhold. The most important thing these last few months is I have surrounded myself with almost, I would say, a mock board of directors. I have a few people in business that I'm able to call on that are true mentors for me, and they've been helping me with these new uncharted territories that I'm going through. One of them being Chris Connors from Sherwin-Williams. If you guys know anything about Chris Connors, from reading about him, he's the real deal. He's so approachable. He's done so much for Cleveland with Sherwin-Williams. He's a great guy. I call him when I have questions. He sets me up with people to help me that have franchised. I mean, when you talk about Sherwin-Williams, how their growth has been over these last few years, and people say, how did you get in on that? How are you able to connect with Chris Connors? Well, his secretary had come into Hungry Bee 2 years ago. I didn't know her. I didn't know her name. Someone goes, oh, she's a secretary at Sherwin-Williams. I looked her up, I called her, and I kept calling and calling and calling. It's like, hey, Chris Connors, I would like to make him dinner one night just so I could pick his brain. That was it. So I think having those people in your corner that are going to help you grow, that have been there before, for me right now, that's like a security blanket for me. That's what's been the biggest. How do I balance being a mother with all this going on? I have a 3-year-old, married with a 3-year-old. That's probably one of the hardest questions to answer, because when you're an entrepreneur and when you're an operational entrepreneur, something's going to suffer. And I've been fortunate working in these private residences that I do every day that I'm able to take her with me when I can. But that has been the one thing. My child has rolled with it from day one because she's never known any better. I think to myself, the goal is not to work like this forever. And if I can set an example for my daughter like my parents set for me, that would be one of the best examples. You know, I think being a stay-at-home mom is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world, and it's not for me at all. So being able to identify that and being able to take my child when I can and involve her when I can has been crucial to my business. And I'm not gonna lie, there's not nights where I'm in bed going, oh my gosh, what am I, you know. When you feel the guilt, especially at the RNC, I felt so much guilt. I don't know if anyone saw on Fox 8, I had pretty much a nervous breakdown live on air crying because it was the first time I was away from my child, and it was, you know, that was hard. But I just take a step back, I take myself out of the situation, I say, this is what's best for my family long term. I work in a private residence every day in Hunting Valley, which is probably an hour away from here. And I started that job right when I left Loretta Paganini's school. And I was trying to build my own brand. I've been the private chef for this woman. It's a whole nother world there. Right now, she's 98 years old. I never in a million years imagined this job would last as long as it has. And I'm not gonna say her name for confidentiality purposes, but you see her name every day. And she's an amazing woman. And I can't leave her because she has no family here, and I go and I cook her lunch and dinner every day. When I became pregnant, after a long fertility struggle, they put a full-blown nursery in the estate for me so that I could bring my child with me every day. I mean, it's clients like that that you say, okay, this was worth it, this was the real deal, they get it, and they appreciate what I do for them, and I appreciate what they do for me. So, and I say, I mean, that's a whole nother world right there. When I leave here, I'm headed there, and that's not a normal circumstance, and I walked into an amazing opportunity, which has helped me immensely grow my business.
So is the private residence part of Hungry Bee?
Yes. So Hungry Bee started as private chef services. That's how we landed a lot of our high-end accounts. And then Hungry Bee's a gourmet food shop. So we have the food shop, we have private chef, we have catering, and then we're opening up Cultivate. So it's a lot of things going on at one time. And what I've realized, especially being in the hospitality business, there's weeks when I'm not actually in the retail store. And the most important thing for me is being in the hospitality business is if I'm not there, who's the face of my business? I mean, you can walk in, and if you're not greeted with a friendly hello and how are you doing today, people are going to go, what's going on? What's going on with this place? Our business thrives on word of mouth traffic and people coming in and their experience that they get. So my biggest expenses have been salaries for staff that I know have my personal and my business's best interests at stake. We take care of our employees because they take such good care of us.
Do you have any idea what it is, or you just do it?
It's a very saturated market. I think the restaurant scene in Cleveland is a very saturated market. But private chef services, it's very competitive. But you know, I always tell people when I'm interviewing for a new account or things like that, make sure that your chef is fully insured, fully bonded. There's chefs out there doing so well right now, but not looking at the grand scheme of things. They're not paying insurance. They're not thinking about workers' comp and all that, and they're flying under the radar. To be legit is expensive, I tell people, and that comes at a price, that comes at a premium. I'm sorry, I don't want to burn down your house, Mr. and Mrs. Haslam, but God forbid that happens. I better have a $4 million insurance policy. So I think about with personal chefs, if there's a lot of us, but there's not many legit personal chefs. And to do your research.
Do you know when you're going to be on Chopped?
I know that they're coming, when am I going to be on Chopped? They're coming to Cleveland to film me between December 9th and 18th, and then I go film in February. And they said it's usually a really fast turnaround, so we'll put it up on the Hungry Bee page when we'll be on.
I think they would have been a little dysfunctional with it.
Did you work for Marigold? The only reason I'm saying that is because at this vendor day, Marigold was right next to me, and they were not thrilled when I made that Walmart comment. So I think what worked so much with us, why we were chosen, maybe over some of the Marigold accounts, were we were so much more personable and approachable. Marigold, I'm not talking bad about anyone's business. I want everybody to know that right now. They brought a consultant up from Florida, a chef that had worked at the last Republican National Convention. I heard they paid this chef a boatload of money, and they didn't even secure enough contracts to compensate him for what he asked for. Meanwhile, instead of looking for consultants and this, I just got my ass out there in front of every single person. This is why I want your account. I'm going to make you a priority. You are a priority to my business. My phone rang 24 hours a day. There were times I was in bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, and someone from Senator McCarthy's office or McConnell's office would call and be like, we need to change the linens to this color. Just saying, no problem, no problem. I was available. I never said no, and I think that's what separated me from that. And I only went to that convention with myself, my husband, and 12 other employees. And everyone said, how did you do that? I had every employee sign a contract, an 80-hour week contract. We paid them a bonus on top when it was all done. They gave us our life for the week, and we ran like maniacs, and everybody saw that. And I truly believe that's why my corporate business has gone up the way it has. Yes?
Through that, with 12 employees, success. Is that kind of a true statement?
Yeah, we managed our process. We had a system before we went in there. And the best thing was, in thinking, these people are the face of my business, because I was primarily with the Trump campaign throughout the entire convention. Who's going to take care of Ben Carson? Who's going to take care of Newt Gingrich? They had to have that love to serve attitude like I had. And I said, who am I going to bring in to handle this huge moment of my little business here? People I graduated high school with, my immediate family, people I knew that I could trust, my best friend since kindergarten. 80% of these people had never served a day in their life. And what do they say? Fake it till you make it. We put on a front, and we just said, we're going to work, we're going to be paid well. We had a system. We were incredibly organized. And I'll be honest, technology and organization are not my strong suits. But I surrounded myself with people that those were their strong suits. And yes, you can sit at a desk all day, every day. But when I put you in this position here to do something amazing with a very small staff, you're all going to rally together like a team. And something I always look for in an employee, when I was growing up, when I was in school, I received 6 varsity letters. I was very athletic. I was into all the sports. And I remember that camaraderie that I always felt growing up and going through sports and being on teams or being in clubs, how important that was. And I wish I had more of that in my life now as an adult. And when we had that Republican National Convention, that was the first time in a long time I felt like that again. I was around people that were all together to achieve a common goal and to run like crazy people, and we didn't have one issue. And we all still step back and go, why was that? We didn't have one issue. It was because we were so organized, we were working as a team, we were positive, we were high energy, and we had a lot of Red Bull. And it was amazing. A lot of Red Bull. Having good people around you is the most important thing in business, I've realized. You know, I've worked in this hospitality industry for a few years. I've experienced theft, people stealing from the restaurant. I mean, people coming to work and bringing their baggage with them. And especially in my business, I tell my employees, every single person that walks in those doors of Hungry Bee, I want you to say, hey lady, what's going on? How's your day? Hey sir, how you? Just being upbeat. They can go anywhere else. My business is in such a saturated market, and I truly believe that the people working at Hungry Bee are what set us apart. They know your name, they know where you live. I mean, it's good people, and that's been the most gratifying thing for me is all the emails we get that say, you know, we came in, the food was wonderful, it was a great dinner, but I just want to say your customer service was outstanding. That's the big thing. And then when it comes to booking events, you know, I was in labor delivery with my first child and in there for about 6 hours, and my cell phone rang. My husband answered it, and I said, oh, it's someone looking to book a wedding. And I took the call. And the fact that I took the call in Hillcrest Hospital, she's like, you know what, I'm just going to hire you. Like, I am always the first one to answer the phone and return the call. Because I know with these bridezillas, these crazy brides, we get a lot of them. You don't answer that phone, they're going to call Marigold 2 minutes later. So, yeah.
You know, I have to say something and they wanted to see you succeed.
That's right. And I can't say enough that it was one of the best experiences of my life. And it's to the point, like, I wish everyone in Cleveland could have experienced it because, you know, so many people were down on this RNC coming to Cleveland. Oh, the RNC's coming to Cleveland, you know. And I'll be honest with you all. I barely got out of high school. High school was strictly social for me. I was social butterfly, you know, athletic and everything. And my sister is highly, highly intelligent. So I tell this story all the time. Probably in November, I called her. I said, hey, Kate, there's this thing coming to Cleveland. It's called the RNC. I'm sure they're going to need some food. You know, they got to eat, right? And she looks at me, she goes, Kimberly, do you even know what RNC stands for? Do you even know what that is? And I was like, it's Republican. It's a thing for the Republicans. And I think that right there has pushed me ever since when I said, I'm going to start reaching out of the inauguration. She goes, okay, yeah, you do that, Kim, you do that. No one was expecting me to get calls back, little company jug, and I have, and I've gotten a lot of calls back. But I think I always have that one person on my team, which is my sister, who I love to death, who's always saying, oh, come on, you know, you really think you can do that? And that's given me that fire in the belly and that intestinal fortitude to just kind of stick it to her a little bit and be like, yeah, you know, I got it. Yes.
Kim, I just want to say
They do. Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that has been the one thing, if I could ever stress enough, I am so appreciative. I always knew I would come back to the community that supported me so much. And I give a lot of talks about our young people. How can we support our young people? How can we nurture, creative, you know, college is not for everyone. I had a softball scholarship to go to Kentucky, and I turned it down because I wanted to be a cook. And my parents, they were just like beside themselves. College is not for everyone, as long as you have a trade. You know, I had a trade, I had a passion, it doesn't feel like work to me. And being awarded that scholarship from my community, that could have been $1 million. And what that did to me, my parents always said, Kimberly, you are a direct reflection on your mother and I. And when I got that college scholarship, I said, and I'm also a reflection on my community. So I always knew I'd come back. And when I opened my business and I had this RNC and we did so well, it was such a blessing, I said, you know what, I'm giving that scholarship back. And 3 months ago, I paid off. I gave that entire scholarship back to the Chagrin Valley Chamber of Commerce. And that gesture that they did for me in college has extended up to now that I'm an adult and a business owner. And I'm only hoping that I can affect someone like I was affected, because without my community and without my mother and father, I'm nothing. I mean, maybe I would be sitting in a cubicle being miserable, not doing what I was passionate about. And I think that that is something that as an entrepreneur and a chef in this community, I hope to be an ambassador for our young people and help them. I mean, how blessed are we to live out here where we live with community and opportunities like we have, and I just think it's absolutely incredible. And I love my family very much, so. Anybody else, any questions? Well, thank you so much, everyone, for having me today. I mean, it was wonderful.